Hi guys. So I just literally walked through the door. I just finished taking my Hesi A2 exam for my LPN program at the school that hopefully I'll get into. Okay, so this is like my first time really making a YouTube video. So if I'm all over the place, please don't, get at me too much in the comments. First of all, thank you for clicking on the video and thank you for watching it. I just wanted to take some time and, describe the whole Hesi A2 experience and, maybe just give you guys a couple tips. So, let me just start. Tip number one, as you can see, dress comfortable because you're sitting for a long time and you're probably going to be sitting for about maybe 3 to 4 hours unless you're like a genius and you just get through that thing really quickly. So tip number one, I would suggest dressing comfortably. Tip number two, I would suggest just be comfortable. Even though they said that it is a 4 hour limit, there was really no one there keeping time and there's not a timer on the exam. Okay, so for preparing for the Hesi, what I did, and I guess I should say that, I did pass. I only needed a 70 to, pass the exam for my school. I ended up making an 89, which I'm kind of, not too happy with that because having an 89, that's like, 1% or 1 point away from making an A. So I feel like if I actually applied myself more and I actually studied more, because I only studied, oh, this is going to be bad, but I studied maybe 3 or 4 days prior to the exam, but hey, it worked out. So on the exam, I had to take the math portion, the anatomy and physiology portion, reading comprehension, and critical thinking. Those were the only ones that were required for my school. Now, let me just say, I know a lot of people are probably, uneasy about the whole math portion, but let me tell you, I don't really like math. But that math portion, I thought it would be way more difficult than what it really was. On the question, there were about 55 math questions. Let's see. Out of the 55, I would say 40% of them were ratios. Like, they were like, solve for x on the ratio. So it would be like 2 to 5 equals x over 10. So basically 2 over 5 equals x over 10, and you have to solve for x. And you basically just set up a proportion for that. But it was multiple choice answers, so if you feel like you're not too great at setting up proportions, what you can do is you can actually just plug in all the answers for x, and then the way to check it is you would because it'll be like 2 over 5 equals x over 10. So you can, plug in the multiple choice answer for x. And the way to check it is you can divide 2 divided by 5, you'll get a decimal number. And then on the other side, whatever solution you plugged in for x from the multiple choice, you can just do that over, the bottom number. And if both sides equals the same digit, it equals the same decimal, then that's the correct answer. So once again, very basic math. Let's see, like I said, maybe about 40% were the ratio, set up proportions. I literally had maybe 3 or 4 conversion questions, like converting millimeters, millimeters to kilometers to meters. Once again, they were very basic. I would suggest that you memorize. I don't know if all the questions are set up the same, but I definitely would suggest that you memorize, the conversion of kilometers to meters. So I suggest that kilometers to meters. So make sure you know that, there for 1 kilometer, there are 1,000 meters. For 1 meter, there's 100 centimeters. So make sure you know your conversions, because those 2 or 3 questions, they can stop you from making what you actually need. But other than that, like I said, 40% was probably the ratios. I had 3 or 4 conversion questions, and the rest, oh my God, it was fractions. Make sure you know how to add and subtract fractions, multiply fractions, divide fractions, and definitely make sure you know how to do that involving mixed numbers, because the rest of the test for math, it was nothing but ratios and fractions. So make sure you're brushed up on that. As far as the anatomy and physiology part, so I took both the anatomy and physiology classes already with lab including. So I was basically brushed up on that. Since I already took those classes, I basically was already brushed up on that. But I would suggest that, if you haven't taken any A&P classes, that you refresh on that. I did watch, honestly, I think I overstudied for it because I did want to refresh my memory. But something good to watch is the crash course on YouTube. And I can give you the link for that. But if you just watch all of the crash course videos, you'll do really good. But just make sure that you know basic anatomy, like the anatomical position, lateral, make sure you know the directional terms, lateral, medial, mid-sagittal, all of that. Let's see here, what else was on there for anatomy. Like I said, I really think that I overstudied for anatomy. It was only like 30 questions on that. The very last one section that I had to do was reading and comprehension. That was literally it wasn't hard at all. You're just reading a paragraph, and then it's gonna ask you just a sentence, the main ideal. It does have vocabulary in it. There's only like a couple of vocabulary questions, so you'll have that. And then all you have to do is make sure you just read the passage, make sure you read it thoroughly, and then if it has a lot of the answers were answers that were written exactly how it was written in the passage. So the last part was the critical thinking. That was just basically like common sense. It just gave you like scenarios of, what a nurse would do in the hospital. So it would give you questions like, you have 4 different patients in different situations, and you just had to pick, which situation would you handle first. So for my school, that's what I had to do. Let's see, as far as studying, like I said, for anatomy, I highly recommend that you watch the crash course on YouTube to prepare you for that. For the math, I definitely would suggest getting the Hesi book, or some type of book where you can just practice basic math, like I said, ratios, fractions. There was a couple converting to decimals. Oh, and the percentages. Make sure you practice, how to find the percent. Let's see. I'm trying to think what else. It's also good to just do a couple practice questions online as well. But I think, let's see. I think that's it. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Let's see. Anatomy, math. Yeah, just make sure if you haven't, been in school for a while, I definitely would recommend studying, a couple weeks ahead. Once again, check out those crash course videos. Get yourself a review book. I don't know if you can see it. So yeah, I think that's about it. If you have any questions, I'm gonna start making YouTube videos about my whole nursing school experience. So if you have any questions, just feel free to comment, or I'm gonna put all my social media pages. You can just send me a message through there. So once again, thank you so much for taking time out to click this video. I hope you come back for more and just come along this nursing journey with me.